Welcome to Wake Up with Dr. Cheryl. Just a reminder, this show is about transformation. Transformation in wealth on all levels, whether it's money, assets, relationships, or spirituality, or love. It's time to wake up and save our humanity and planet. We have a brave and special guest this evening, Kim Ireland. Originally from Rhode Island, he graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Chemical Engineering from Clarkson College, Clarkson University in Potsdam, New York in 1963. Kim served as an officer in the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for 2.5 years in Heidelberg, Germany. He met his Norwegian wife while stationed in Heidelberg. Kim worked for Union Carbide Corporation in their chemical division for 6 years and then formed a small chemical specialty company and sold it after 15 years. Kim has worked in different entrepreneurial capacities over the last 20+ years in environmental and holistic health arena. Kim is an active participant in Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth since 2009. Kim has studied and experienced what is called disaster capitalism. The topic for which we are discussing tonight will be or may be controversial, but then he has researched and professional experience with chemicals. I call this warfare capitalism against humanity. This is the second part of our discussion with Kim. Before we start our show, I came across this interview with Warren Buffett that I would like to share as an intro to capitalism from his perspective.
What money is claim checks. It's a claim check on the output of others in the future. If I have a pile of dollar bills or if I have a pile of stock certificates or a pile of bonds, those represent claim checks which I or a charity or my descendants or my spouse or whomever can use to exchange for the goods and services produced by others. Somebody else will work for that. I can hire now, if I wanted to, I could hire thousands of people to sit every day and paint my portrait. And they would be employed, and I could use these claim checks, and I could look for the perfect portrait of myself. I would never find it because I don't look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but I could keep looking for the guy that would try and make me look that way. And I could keep handing out these claim checks, and I would command that person's services the rest of their life. They wouldn't do anything else for society at all. And, or I could build myself a wonderful pyramid. I could say, why should people have to go to Egypt to see one of these things? So I'll spend all of these claim checks I've got and just have thousands of people. We'll have them in loincloths and, like the original cast in Cecil B. DeMille production, and they'll haul these blocks of granite. We'll build a pyramid and make people forget all about Egypt. And that would command the services of other people. So money will let you can exchange these little pieces of paper for other people's goods and services in the future. And the wisdom with which you do that, or your own proclivities, depends very much on the individual. And some people build pyramids, and I hope other people engage in cancer research. Well, there's enormous disparities in terms of how the benefits of the society been distributed, and the disparities have gotten wider, and our tax system has favored enormously the rich. I am now treated as sort of an endangered species by the government. They want to make sure nothing bad happens to me. So I get a tax rate of 15%, counting payroll taxes virtually, on a very large income. And the average American is paying a higher tax rate than I and most members of the Forbes 400 are paying if you count payroll taxes. I think it's a bad thing, but I think our tax system has gone very much awry in the last, particularly in the last 10 years. I mean, it wasn't this way 50 years ago. But even those on the low end are doing far better than people were, the ones on the high end were doing 100 years ago.
Welcome, Kim. I'm so glad that you could be here and come on my show.
Well, thank you, Cheryl.
Especially since I went to Good Earth right before Christmas to volunteer for an Anycast, and we were trying to get you to come on and do a greeting, and we started to engage in conversation, and you said, "Look up," and I'm thinking, why?
Out on the board here is just a simple plane that you're looking at in the sky as it's flying overhead. And I'm going to show you what a contrail looks like. Is you'll see a exhaust trail starting to form about a plane length behind the plane. So this distance from the start of the trail, the exhaust trail, to the plane, it's not here exactly a plane length, but it'll be about a plane length that you'll see. And then this will come together, this exhaust trail, and it will just form like a tail out here. And this will end up dissipating in about 30 to 90 seconds. Lingering contrails by some, but they're not actually lingering contrails, they're chemtrails. So we'll call them for what they are, chemtrails. And the big difference that we can see right away when we look up and we see a trail forming is we'll see the trail starting right at the wingtip of the plane. Usually it's right behind the first wing. And it doesn't have to be behind the engine. It's really hard to see when these high-flying planes exactly where the engine is anyway. But it's coming right off the wingtip, either the front wingtip or the rear wingtip. Sometimes you see them coming off of here, okay? And they start coming out, and they'll be billowing, thick. Looks like smoke. And then several, maybe a ways behind the plane, you'll see them start to spread out, and they form like ropes. Curlicues start to form. On both sides, you'll see them. Like this. This is actually they start to disperse. And these are formed by the pulsing of the pump in the plane that's actually pumping out this material that is forming the chemtrail. And you never see this in a contrail because it's just from the jet engine revolution, which is thousands of revolutions per minute, versus here the revolutions are much, much slower. So you can actually see the definition. And this is one of the real identifying characteristics of the chemtrails that you will see. It's a material that's being sprayed. I think most of the time it's actually a powder. It can also be a liquid. But obviously aluminum powder is a material that does form a color. It's white. From that standpoint, it looks similar to a contrail, but that's the only way it looks similar. It could be different atmospheric conditions. We don't know all the details on these chemtrails, but it's obvious when you look up that you can see the difference. And then you'll also notice in the atmosphere that there will be a haze. Oftentimes for a day or two following the spray operations, you'll see a haze in the air that is uncharacteristic for the area, particularly here in the San Francisco and Marin area, where we have very little air pollution, and we'll end up with a haze and it'll look like Los Angeles. I think this is very, very important that we get a grip on what these things are, that it's real, and that we need to do something about it.
Kim, thank you so much for showing that diagram.
Yeah.
I mean, it really solidifies in my mind too. And now that since before Christmas, I've been looking up and I've noticed now all the chemtrails, which it seems like the majority of them are. I have seen some contrails, but I'm
good. So you've seen both types.
Yes, yes, but I've seen more chemtrails than contrails.
Right. Yeah, I want people to really own this information, and the simpler it is, the more real it will be for everyone.
Yeah.
And there are very distinct differences between the two, and they're pretty easy to spot after a while, after you've been doing this for a while. So
I just wish we had a faster solution. We don't see the effect on what's happening to us as human beings breathing this in our
Right.
plants. But look at our weather.
right,
We're in a drought.
right. Yeah,
And this is serious.
right. Actually, you know, when these weather modification operations started, you know, 50, 60, 70 years ago, the intent was to make rain. In other words, they were actually cloud seeding operations.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
I think they used silver compounds, actually. And the idea was to create rain when there were droughts, okay? But we don't see that happening now. You know, there's no discussion about it. We don't see any results. And in fact, it may be just the opposite, because the aluminum tends to dry out the atmosphere. And so when that happens, it just creates, it reinforces the stationary high, like what we have sitting off the coast for easily the last month now has been this tremendous high pressure ridge.
You mean like the fog bank that stays out
No,
beyond?
no, it's not the fog bank. It's actually a high pressure weather
Oh,
system.
okay.
Okay, but if it's reinforced and made into a stronger high pressure system, then it's able to fend off these low pressure systems that come from the Gulf of Alaska or even as far away as northern Japan. And some of these large low pressure systems, that's what typically we see in the winter that feeds us our rain. And this winter, those large systems have not been able to overcome this stationary high pressure ridge
Right.
that's been off the California coast. And I just wonder if these chemtrails have actually in some way been used to reinforce this high pressure
But
system.
why?
You
See,
know?
that's the question. The big, you know, to me, it's a dollar question.
Yeah.
It's like, why are they doing this?
Yeah. Who really knows? You can just look at the consequences and see that there is a disaster in progress in the form of the drought. The reservoirs are low. Ranchers are having to supplement with huge quantities of hay for their livestock. Crops are struggling. Orchards are struggling. So there's certainly a disaster that is created from a drought. So if action is being taken to reinforce the drought, then that would fall under the...
So they're making money doing that.
You know, I hate to think of it that way, Cheryl, but I guess it's a possibility.
Well, capitalism,
Yeah.
disaster capitalism, somebody's making money off of it. Or why would they be doing it except for power?
Right. This geoengineering is being done on a world scale basis. It's not just locally here in California. It's happening in other countries. So it's not strictly a
Just
U.S.
here.
function, okay, which further complicates.
So what should we do? You know, I mean, as a viewer watching this, what can we do?
Okay, here's what I've done. For the last 8 years, I've continued to educate myself on it. I educate other people who are willing to look up, and basically that's the first step. Like when we met outside of Good Earth, it was an opportunity to introduce you to this phenomena called chemtrails. So that's the first thing is awareness. Secondly, I guess we can become advocates otherwise.
Yeah, like this opportunity to use the show to be able to educate people.
Right.
And talk about it more. Just keep talking about it. And,
Exactly.
you know, the more people that get aware and start talking about it, you know, it's a domino effect. It'll
Well, look at GMO foods, not to bring in another.
No, but that's also the same thing.
It's chemical modification of the foods, and as a result of people paying attention to it and spreading the information, explaining to their friends and family what's going on with this, now we see action being taken by some of the large corporations.
Yeah, so it does,
Yeah.
you know, it starts with one person,
Right.
second, third, fourth, blah, 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 thousands later.
Right.
So thank you for sharing this
Right. So,
information, because now, you know, I feel like I need to be somewhat of an activist, because it's also wealth transformation, part of wealth transformation.
right.
And, you know, it's your health.
Right.
Or if you don't have your health, you don't have wealth.
Right.
So
yeah, first of all is our health, and a dialogue needs to happen as to what effect these operations are having on people's health. If it's necessary to perform these operations, these spray operations, for some strategic reason, it's very important that it be done, then by all means, simply notify people in the geographical area where it's happening so that they can take precautions.
prepare. I mean, you know, like Dr. Blaylock says, it's saffron and DHA.
Right.
Saffron in particular gets rid of the aluminum in your system.
Oh, great.
So that's one tip that I'll say to, you know, and I'm going to start doing it, because I'm very health conscious and I don't want any extra more than just the aging process as it is, you know.
Right.
So, so on this topic about chemicals, I know that you're involved with the 9/11. Maybe you can just talk about this very briefly, about the effect, the 9/11 effect that you're involved with.
Yeah. Well, this is when I had my awakening, so to speak. This is when I woke up and really started to think and question the news that was being presented. Was when 9/11 happened, and I became aware of the fact that there was molten steel in the basement under all three buildings. And you did know that there were 3 buildings that collapsed, not just 2?
I know, I heard after the fact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so for steel to melt, it requires about 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. And jet fuel is essentially kerosene, which is used in kerosene stoves and kerosene lanterns. It's also the same as barbecue lighter fluid. And so think about
3,000 degrees? No, no, not with lighter fluid.
Think about your barbecue lighter fluid,
No.
and that's certainly not melting the barbecue grill. So it started me thinking about, like, what could have happened that would have caused the steel in the buildings to melt and to create this pool of molten steel. And it was weeks afterwards that it was still molten, so it didn't just happen in that day even. So that's what launched my curiosity, and basically.
So what material other than just plain old jet fuel was in there to create that phenomena that obviously was manipulated?
Yeah, well, if any fireman will tell you that an accelerant is needed for something like that to happen. And there were many firemen that were interviewed after the event who heard explosions happening throughout the whole event. And so it does appear that there were a high probability of explosions of explosives used in the demolition of the buildings. So
Obviously, they don't want the general public to know that.
yeah, that is an issue. The 9/11 Commission report did not allow the word explosive to be used, even though there were...
So to me, there's a cover-up happening, and I mean, from this information, however, we don't have to go too deep into this because I understand the sensitivity of it.
Yeah. But that's really what got me thinking, and that was in 2001, and then it was about in 2006 that I became aware of the chemtrails. A friend of mine, told me to look up and told me what I was seeing, and I denied it. I said, "Oh, that can't be true. That's too far out." And
here it is.
As time went along, the spraying has increased over the years. So.
Well, I'm glad that you could share and educate me and our viewers on this subject, because I think it's very serious. Otherwise, I wouldn't have even thought about having you on the show, because it's disaster capitalism, and my show is about wealth transformation, and this is all part of it. So is there anything else that you would like to share on this subject? That the viewers, maybe could get a better picture of, why we're talking about. I mean, it's obvious why we're talking about it, but is there anything else that you can think of that, would help to understand a little bit better?
Well, I guess the attitude to have, and it took me a while to get into a questioning mindset, because we're really taught not to question, okay? And so there are a lot of benefits to questioning. You start to understand things, and your life takes on a different meaning once you start to question and look at things in a whole different way. And so I think that's the message that I would like to convey is it's okay to question. The fact that maybe you didn't study chemistry is okay. Just use your eyes. And I prefer not to get into discussing subjects where I'm relying on what somebody said or heard or wrote. I prefer to talk about what I can see.
Yeah, experiential.
Experiential.
Yeah.
And we all have the opportunities to see, and particularly when we look up. So I feel it's empowering.
So look up and wake up.
Right.
There's one thing I want to say about the 9/11 that surfaced in the last few days, that there are multiple people, firemen, attorneys, doctors, and some of the city people in New York have been arrested that were part of the 9/11 that have actually absconded through the Social Security system millions of dollars. And I don't know how they were caught. I haven't seen the repercussion of the continuing articles about it. But, that's another abuse of power and greed. These people shouldn't have been, they falsified, they lied about being disabled, and I mean, it's like, wake up. You're going to pay your dues when you do that.
Right.
They don't get it. They don't believe
They got caught on Facebook.
Was it caught on Facebook? Oh, I didn't. You did your homework there.
So.
Oh, okay. Well, so see, you know, what goes around comes around. And, you know, there's more than enough for everybody.
Right.
You know, and the greed factor. So I'm glad that, you know, they're getting what they deserve, just like Bernie Madoff, you know.
Right.
I'm sorry, but, you know, it is what it is. But anyway, it's really been a pleasure for you
Cheryl.
to be here. And I know that we could talk for a lot more, longer than this, because you have a lot. We've already had a discussion about this a couple times. And I know that there's a lot more information in that brain of yours that you could share. But thank you so much.
Well, we covered the main points, and I think it's, like I said, if people will simply look up when they see lines in the sky and start to tell their friends, to tell their family, tell their neighbors what they see, and just simply ask them, what do you think's going on with this? And get a dialogue going. None of us are really experts in it. But we're all concerned, and we're all here on planet Earth
together, and it's our health. Ultimately, it might take a few years, but you know, aging happens fast enough.
Right.
So why do we need to push the envelope here, and especially when it's being manipulated by some other force?
Right. Exactly.
Or forces.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a lot more philosophy about that, which at this time we won't go into.
Right.
But anyway, I just want everybody to wake up about being whole and healthy and using integrity. And there's more than enough, a wealth of everything. And especially the most important thing is love. That's still the most important thing. So, but thank you.
Thank you
so much
Cheryl,
for being here.
And to come on and share with your viewers my experiences.
I'll leave you with this. Never give up on your purpose and passion. Work with integrity and have a positive attitude wherever you work. And please, first and foremost, with your family and friends, be grateful for what you have, who you are, and where you have come from. And be grateful for your freedom. And eat healthy. Good nutrition feeds the mind and your body temple. Don't forget to keep moving your body by working out. Feed your spirituality with meditation and prayer. With unconditional love. Love yourself unconditionally and share your abundance and wealth with others. Thanks for watching. When fear knocks, let faith answer the door. Money is like love. It kills slowly and painfully the one who withholds it, and enlivens the other who turns it on his fellow man. By Kahlil Gibran. You are what you are, where you are, because of what has gone into your mind. You can change what you are and where you are by changing what goes into your mind. By Zig Ziglar. Bye for now. Until next time.